Welcome back to the Creepypasta Files. Today we're covering one of my personal favorites, the Russian sleep experiment. Let's go. The premise of the story is that in the late 1940s, the Russian government tested a secret gas that would supposedly keep their subjects awake for 30 days on prisoners. The experiment lasted 15 days, and a lot of creepy stuff happened in between.
8 days and nights. If successful, it was to be the longest period of uninterrupted wakefulness ever recorded.
During the first 5 days of the experiment, everything went about normal. The prisoners did not have any trouble staying awake, and the only thing of note was that the topic of conversations between the prisoners was getting darker in tone. But after day 5, the subjects began screaming until their vocal cords were torn. Then, the subjects tore apart the books they had been provided in their test chamber, and using their own feces as a sort of glue, covered up the observation windows of the chamber. After that, the screaming stopped, and the researchers couldn't see inside. The researchers gave it 3 more days of silence. There was no sound coming from the chamber, but the oxygen intake in the room suggested there was strenuous physical activity going on inside. On the 14th day, the scientists used the emergency intercom to send a message inside the chamber. "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor, or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you your immediate freedom." The subjects inside spoke for the first time since day 5. "We no longer want to be freed." There was some debate on what to do next, but at 12 a.m. on day 15, the scientists decided to open the chamber. First, they drained the chamber of the anti-sleep gas, replacing it with regular air. Then the subjects started talking again, pleading that they turn the gas back on. A group of soldiers were sent to recover the patients, and when the door was opened, what they saw inside shocked everyone. There were only 4 out of the 5 subjects still alive. The living patients resembled corpses more than humans. Their chests were completely open, exposing their rib cage, heart, and lungs. The organs below the chest had been removed. The digestive tract was still functioning, digesting what appeared to be their own flesh. Many of the soldiers who were sent in to retrieve the subjects refused to return. The patients still screamed for the gas to be turned on again and to be sealed in the chamber again. When the subjects were finally removed, it didn't go well. The patients were somehow able to nearly fight off the soldiers, even in their weakened state. One soldier was killed by a patient, another brutally injured, and 5 more soldiers lost their lives to suicide after. During the struggle to restrain the subjects, 1 of the 4 subjects bled out and died. The surviving 3 were given surgery, however it was extremely difficult due to their inhuman strength and immunity to anesthesia. The surgeon even stated that it was medically impossible that they were still alive. But they were. After the surgery, 2 of the patients with intact vocal cords were asked why they had done what they had done, and why they wanted the gas on again. The patients replied, "I must remain awake." The other patient wrote a note to the doctor after the surgery. It was simple, just 2 words: keep cutting. After much debating, it was decided by the Russian government that was funding the project that they would put the patients back into the sealed room and turn on the gas again. The patients still hadn't slept, but they were struggling to stay awake now that they were off the gas. During the process, 1 of the patients fell asleep, then died almost instantly. The only subject with vocal cords left started begging for the gas to be turned back on now, and the commander of the operation called for the door to be sealed, while 3 researchers were still inside. At the word of this, one of the researchers inside pulled a gun, shot the commander, and then the other subject, the one with the missing vocal cords. The rest of the researchers fled, but the one with the gun stayed to ask the remaining test subject a question. "What are you?" The subject replied, "Have you forgotten so easily? We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread." The researcher shot the last subject. The end. Holy hell, that was intense. So, what happened to these subjects? Why did they go crazy? How did they survive? How did they become so strong? Well, let me give you this as a theory. They unlocked 100% of their brains. I know, it sounds a little bit ridiculous, but it kinda makes sense. No one ever said that unlocking your brain's full potential was pretty or even a good thing. That's just how we've portrayed it in movies. Let me go in depth. At the very end, one of the subjects says, "We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread. There is some part of us that we cannot access because we sleep. We give our brains rest and time to process. But with that inhibited, the subject's brains were able to work 24/7, and that led them to unlocking this part of consciousness. That's why they were strong and could withstand such damage and still survive. Their brains were on overdrive, working constantly and continuously, uninterrupted. They could live without things we think we need because their brains were working harder than ours. That's why when they fell asleep, they died. As soon as their brain rests, it stops being able to sustain the body at the abnormal level of damage while resting. That is why they were afraid of sleeping. That is why they wanted the gas to be put back on. So what about the phrase, keep cutting? Well, this is freaky, but I think I know what they wanted. At this point in the story, the patients had gone a substantial time without the gas. This meant that the natural need to sleep was taking over. So, what is one sensation that instantly gets adrenaline pumping and jolts you awake? Pain. The subjects wanted to continue the surgery because they wanted to feel the pain to keep them awake. So that's my theory for the Russian sleep experiment.